So before I have Dr. White make his way up to the front, which he's already standing there in position, as a former military person would do, but we're never former, are we? I would like to bring everybody's attention to, as we had seen in my slide with all of our partnerships that we have, our partnerships also extend to the federal government. And we have some of our federal partners here with us today. So unfortunately, Zach Dungan had to leave, but Allison Ewell is still here with us. So Zach Dungan is the FBI Senior Agent in charge of the Norfolk Federal Bureau of Investigations field office. He had to depart, but Allison Ewell is an analyst and his assistant, and she is with us today. Another federal partner that we have with us is NASA. So NASA has partnered with us, and we have Caroline Montgomery with us. And then, of course, we travel. We know that all of our grants, when we are awarded a grant, it's tied to our congressional district members, and they get a copy of that. VTEC is very blessed that we have very good support from not only our Virginia congressional district, but also from our federal congressional and Senate district. So Senator Warner could not be with us today, but he did send a formal letter. And also Congressman Bobby Scott could not be with us today, but we do have his staffer with us today. If you could please stand. We have John right here. John, we thank you so much for attending in place of Congressman Scott, and we just really appreciate you being here. We can't thank you enough for that. So I did want to bring you to everybody's attention our federal partners and the congressional districts that we do partake in. Now, before I have Dr. White come up here, I would ask if Chief Anderson would make his way up. So, as most of us know in the Indigenous community, Dr. White, you have been the #1 advocate of the Indigenous students in the Commonwealth. Your passion, your dedication to education. You started off, you had a military career, you went in the private sector, making some good money. And you said, no, my heart's in education, and I have a passion for it, and you're a public servant. And you have done tremendous work in King William County, and we are forever grateful for that. And for that, we have with our greatest appreciation, we hereby honor Dr. David White in recognition for your passion and commitment to the Virginia Tribal Education Consortium on November 5th, 2022. Thank you. And with that said, you cannot retire now. I give you the floor.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. It's right there.
Wow, put me on the spot. This is definitely a little bit larger crowd than last year, and I'm very, very grateful for that. My first opportunity to present was last year, and I really felt an affinity with the group. We had a good conversation about education, self-determination in education, and what the community could do to further increase and enhance those opportunities. And that's what I want to speak to you about today. I'm going to go through what King William County Public Schools has done, which could be a model, but it is not the only way that it could be done. But I also have several asks that I'm going to put out there today. So I'm going to solicit your help, your support, your input, not just today, but moving forward. And it seems that with the growth of VTEC, those resources and opportunities are going to be very present. I do want to thank Dr. Edwards again for inviting me. Chief Adams, Raven, thank you so much, and Kara Canaday, who could not be here today, but thank you all for bringing me here. We can go to the next, I got it. So I wanted to start by giving some words from Joy Harjo, the 23rd Poet Laureate, and the only 3-time Poet Laureate in our country. And it speaks to the oral history of indigenous tribes and their poetry. We understand poetry to be a living language, whether it is our tribal languages or in English or another language. Poetry is a tool to uncover the miraculous in the ordinary. And a lot of the oral traditions that come down are very poetic, and they tell a story, and they tell your story. And it's very important that we continue to do that and allow those stories to come to the fore, and they need to be accurate, as you all have expressed earlier. What we typically use, and this is going to lead into the ED Form 506. By show of hands, how many of you all are familiar with the ED Form 506? Okay. I was hoping that everybody's hand would go up because this is your voice. This is your opportunity to be represented in your local schools, and this is what we've done in King William County Public Schools. So annually, your local LEEs develop and submit the U.S. Department of Education a comprehensive plan for meeting the needs of indigenous children. And this plan is how we get funded, but also through the form that individuals in the community can and should fill out. We look to increase academic achievement, enhance problem solving and cognitive skills development, and directly support attainment of state educational standards, your SOLs, but then also enhance Native American language instructional programs. And you'll find on your tables, a couple of artifacts that we've used in the past with our K-5 students, with language acquisition, but also just learning more about the traditions of Native peoples in their community. You'll see examples of medallions. You'll see examples of language with hello, Ngapo, Wingapo. And this is the letter that we send out every year apprising families of what they must do in order to receive those services and to be counted. We've done this for about 15 years now, and it's important that we as school divisions reach out to our community, but then they also make sure that they fill out the form so that they can be counted. And those numbers are what drives the federal dollars that we receive. They're not a whole lot, but they are something that will support education for our indigenous children. But also, we do use it to educate our general population as well, so that we can ensure that they are learning accurate history. And it's very important in an area like this where there is a very strong Native population. So based on our ED Form 506, which is an online form now, you have a copy of it on your tables. It doesn't translate very well when it's printed, but it has all the information that you need. This year, and it should be 2022-23, we received $6,917 based on a student count of 38. I think that we have more students that could be identified as Native American. However, those are the numbers that we have. The breakdown of those allocation or those funds, we get about $4,700 go towards supplies for after-school programs for K-5 students, and then tutoring for after-school is about $2,500. This year, parents have told us because of the COVID and learning loss, they've requested that we provide more of the academic training. However, we still want to make sure that we are providing the Virginia standards with that as well. This is our breakdown based on our count. We have 38 students this year, representing 6 tribes. And this is in King William. I was hesitant to put this up this year. Last year I brought it and we had some tribes that were missing, and Chief Anderson called me on it. But I thank you for that. But I had to come back and make sure that he knew that we did correct it. And then we also had a misspelling there. But that's one of the asks that I have of you. If you see information that we are putting out that is incorrect, you've got to call us on it. You know, I don't want us putting out inaccurate information because that dilutes your history. And we cannot do that. So please, anything that you see that we are using as an instructional tool, if you see inaccuracies, you have to let us know, and we will correct them. The other ask is that you provide materials that you have that would enhance what we do. We need that to make sure that, again, that we are teaching accurate history and that we are providing accurate information. Some of the activities that we are doing in light of Native American History Month, Pamunkey pottery class, they're learning how to make the base and the coil form to make a sturdier pot. And these are some of the things that the students are participating in. In the past, we have participated in the annual Upper Mattaponi Powwow. And it's funny, I was telling the story that when the program first started, I'll say long before I got there, they put up a teepee as a representation of a house that the Native Americans lived in. And of course, we know that is not accurate for this area. This is a more accurate representation. But again, that was the ignorance and that was the generalization that folks have when they think of Native peoples. Here are some historical articles of programs that we put on, including the Upper Mattaponi Powwow, the Pamunkey Museum, Mattaponi Museum, National Museum of the American Indian. A big one was the Indian Tax Tribute Ceremony in Richmond. But again, we do after-school programming, drumming and dancing, tutoring, and SAT prep. So we are able to provide a wide array of educational opportunities for students. But again, the driver is the ED Form 506. And if you live in one of the 132 divisions within the Commonwealth and you do not receive as a parent that form coming home, you need to stand up and say something. Because that means that you are not being represented in that community. One of the great things that has happened is our partnership with VTEC, and it has really enhanced some of the educational resources and opportunities that we can provide. One of the biggest things is the cultural competencies training for teachers. It is very comprehensive, and it gives a really good depiction of the history of Native peoples in the Commonwealth. We also have model lessons that teachers can use. Virginia's First People, again, the history, teachers resources list, including books, readings, and web pages, as well as a web quest where individuals can go on and look up certain historical items. My final ask, our future needs to support cultural learning, authentic, vetted curricula that is reflective of the history of Virginia Indians. Feedback from parents regarding activities that would promote higher participation rates from Indigenous students and families. Guest speakers and artists to showcase Indigenous culture. And finally, professional learning opportunities for staff to promote continued cultural competencies. On your desks or at your tables, I've also left you with a brainstorming activity. While you're here, if you can think of things that would enhance our program, please feel free to write them down. If you have names or contacts of anybody that might help us, please feel free to write that down. And I can collect that at the end, and we will take those suggestions back with us and see what we can do to improve our programming. We are at the very beginning. 15 years in, we are at the very beginning of this endeavor, but we have to do more. We don't know what we don't know, And so with your help, we can improve, enhance, and really provide the educational opportunities that the students in our community need. And with that, I thank you. I really appreciate it.